Russia unleashing a barrage of airstrikes after accusing Ukraine of launching drones against the Kremlin and attempting to assassinate Vladimir Putin. Ukraine says the drones that struck the city of Odessa had handwritten words reading, quote, for Moscow and for the Kremlin, suggesting this is retaliation for the Kremlin attack, which Ukraine denies involvement in. Let's bring in CNN global affairs analyst and senior managing editor at the Military Times, Kim Dozier. Kim, thanks so much for joining us this morning. Ukraine has denied it is responsible for that Kremlin drone attack. What what do you make of this retaliation this morning? Apparently, is for that attack, and who could have been behind the drone attack on the Kremlin if it wasn't Ukraine?
Well, we may never know because we can't get independent analysis of the drone wreckage. Russia says that it was a specific type of drone that is in the Ukrainian arsenal. And Ukraine does actually have armed drones that can fly that far. I mean, something like more than 500 miles from Kyiv to Moscow, but it's only about 300 miles from the Ukrainian border to the Russian capital. So technically, it could have been Ukraine. There was a 12-hour delay between the attacks and Russia's official response and statement to the world. Could have been during that time that they were scrambling to figure out, how do we explain something that breached our security perimeter as Red Square was mostly closed in preparations for Russia's victory parade on May 9th. And the result was, as we all saw, this announcement that Ukraine was trying to kill the Russian president. It's a sort of a rhetorical response that gives Russia more of an excuse to step up attacks and, of course, inspire its own people to attack. And perhaps that explains the words daubed on those drones headed for Odessa.
Yeah, the whole sort of line from Russia, from the Kremlin, might actually be for an internal audience, not for an external audience. And I guess we can't rule out that the Kremlin staged this itself. Some kind of a false flag event. What would Putin gain from that?
Well, one of the things that Putin has tried to do since the beginning of this war, I mean, the original aim when Russian forces went all over Ukraine before being beaten back was to decapitate the government, to take out President Zelensky himself. But then when the forces got beaten back, and Zelensky became this public hero, and the thought in U.S. intelligence and diplomatic circles, also across the West, across Europe, was that Zelensky became too big to kill. So what Russia could now be trying to do, whether they were behind this attack or not, is drive the thin end of the wedge into public opinion across Europe and the United States that, hey, this is a president who would attack our president, so we should be able to take him off the board. And that could help Moscow, because Moscow sees Zelensky as the unifying force for that embattled country and for the whole the whole Ukrainian war effort against Russia.
Very interesting. And I guess we can't rule out that there could be internal dissent, right, inside of Russia that could have been behind this.
Absolutely. There have been some strange explosions against cargo trains, et cetera, inside Russia. There could be a partisan or an anti-Putin movement growing. I think there are a lot of analysts and politicians in the West who would like that to be true, but we just don't know at this point.
Indeed. All right, Kim Dozier with Military Times. Nice to see you. Thank you.